Have you ever felt furious over a single comment? Let one small act push you over the edge. Every day, you hand over your emotions like giving away the steering wheel of your life. But that ends today, if you're willing to learn from the wisest man of the Roman Empire, Marcus Aurelius. Anger doesn't come from others, it comes from how you choose to respond. And that choice? It's still yours to make. Don't let strangers take up space in your mind. Take back the keys. Take back control. Listen to the end of this video, you'll learn how to shut the door on negative emotions, for good. Don't let anyone control your emotions. A man who cannot master his emotions will always be at the mercy of others. He reacts instead of chooses. He gets angry, impatient, unhinged, not because the world is too harsh, but because he hasn't yet built strength from within. In today's world, where you're pulled in every direction by work, family, financial stress, competition, and society's definition of a successful man, you cannot afford to let anyone or anything hijack your mind. Stoic philosophy offers a simple truth that can shift your entire life. No one can make you angry, hurt, or insecure unless you allow it. That may sound hard to accept at first. Most of us are trained to react. Someone insults you? Snap back. Something feels unfair? Your blood boils. Your partner says something harsh? Your mind instantly goes into defense mode. But that means you've given your power away. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, once said, "It's not things that upset us, but our thoughts about them." In other words, you can't control other people, but you can control how you respond. And that's where real power begins, from within. Imagine your mind as a home. You wouldn't let strangers walk in and wreck your living room. So why let them enter your thoughts with a rude comment or a careless act, and ruin your entire day, or even your week, over a few seconds of negativity? Modern men are especially vulnerable to emotional traps because the environment is built for instant reactions. But reaction isn't power. Choosing how you respond, that's where maturity lies. No one's asking you to be a robot. But you do have the power to pause. In that pause, you reclaim control. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the author of your response. A grounded man doesn't get swept away by impulse. He observes. He evaluates. He decides. He responds with intention. He knows true strength isn't found in winning an argument, but in staying calm in the middle of chaos. Don't confuse calmness with weakness. In truth, calm is one of the highest forms of strength because it demands discipline, self-awareness, and inner command. A man who can stay grounded through criticism, conflict, even betrayal, is a man who commands respect in every room he walks into. In Stoic philosophy, you don't react emotionally. You respond rationally. You don't let your mind be pulled by the chaos outside. You keep your center steady, like a stone that stands firm while the storm rages around it. That's how you take back control of your life. When you stop blaming others for your emotions, you choose freedom. When you stop reacting on instinct and start responding with strategy, you become a man of strength, substance, and unshakable resolve. Key takeaway. People may act poorly. Life may be unfair. But your emotions, they're your responsibility. When you own them, no one can break you from the inside. If you believe that your emotions are your responsibility, write it down. I own my emotions. That's your first commitment to a steadier mind and a more peaceful life. 2. Embrace reality, the power of willingness. Mastering your emotions is the first step to taking control of your life. But to truly live with calm and clarity, you need to understand something deeper. The world does not operate on your terms. And it doesn't need to. Modern men often grow up believing that if they work hard enough, stay sharp enough, and stay strong enough, things will go according to plan. But reality doesn't work that way. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Opportunities slip away. Accidents happen. Setbacks, loss, and unexpected turns, they show up without warning. And if you keep resisting reality, you'll only drive yourself into stress and frustration. You'll rage against things you can't control. You'll constantly feel let down because the world doesn't bend to your will. That's a guaranteed path to bitterness and instability. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Love your fate. Whatever happens is part of the fabric of the universe." Accepting reality doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean weakness. It means having the strength to know the difference between what you can change and what you can't. And when you learn to let go at the right moment, you protect your inner peace. Picture yourself stuck in traffic. The usual reaction? Frustration. Hitting the steering wheel. Complaining about how unlucky this day has been. But your anger won't move the cars. Meanwhile, someone living by Stoic principles will shift instantly. Stuck? Time to catch up on a podcast. Raining? A moment to slow down and reflect. Life isn't fair. Stoicism never promises that it will be. What it offers is a framework, a mental compass to stay grounded even when everything around you is falling apart. When you embrace reality willingly, you stop being pushed around by circumstances. You stop demanding that the world match your emotions. You begin to live with purpose, with vision, with an inner strength that doesn't waver at every inconvenience. No one can truly stop you. But you can stop yourself by resisting what's beyond your control. Core lesson. Acceptance is the foundation of inner calm. When you stop forcing life to match your expectations, you set yourself free from constant disappointment. True peace doesn't come from changing the world, it comes from changing how you respond to it. If you've ever lost your temper over the small stuff, being late, bad weather, traffic, try shifting your perspective. And if you know someone who's always upset by the little things, share this message with them. It might be what they need to turn their life around. When you master your emotions, you stop blaming. When you accept what is, you stop complaining. And that's when you start truly living, steady, unshaken, and no longer at the mercy of every little thing. 3. Stop judging others. Step outside, scroll through social media, or spend a day in a high-pressure workplace. What do you see? A driver moving too slowly. A colleague who speaks harshly. Someone being rude to a waiter. A close friend suddenly acting distant and moody. And instantly, your mind starts labeling, stupid, arrogant, lazy, selfish. Judgment is reflexive. Almost hardwired. But it's that very reflex that often takes your peace away. Stoicism doesn't ask you to love everyone, but it does ask you to understand one powerful truth: judging others is often just a subtle form of self-punishment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion." What does that mean? It means you can witness bad behavior, poor choices, or unpleasant people without letting your mind get entangled in it. You don't need to label them. You don't need to carry the weight of their actions in your thoughts. You can simply observe, acknowledge, and stay inwardly still. The truth is, you don't know their story. The slow driver might be transporting his elderly mother home from the hospital. The grumpy coworker might be drowning in debt. The distant friend might be grieving something they haven't shared. When you judge, you're assuming you know everything, and that's one of the most dangerous illusions. Stoicism isn't just about emotional control, it's about preserving your mental space. The space to observe without jumping to conclusions. The space to pause before reacting. The space to choose clarity over emotional noise. For men, judgment often shows up in familiar ways: anger, condescension, competition, sarcasm. But underneath those reactions often lies misunderstanding, unhealed wounds, or unrealistic expectations. When you label others, you also limit yourself, because you're viewing the world through the narrow lens of your own ego. A mature man doesn't seek superiority by mentally tearing others down. He doesn't allow his peace to be disrupted by the behavior of people he can't control. He doesn't let a stranger's bad day dictate his own presence and energy. Inner freedom doesn't come from changing others, it comes from not being provoked by them. And more importantly, Judging others doesn't help you understand them, it only distorts your understanding of yourself. Next time you catch yourself labeling someone, pause and ask, am I missing context? Am I reacting instead of reflecting? What part of myself might this be revealing? That question alone can mark the beginning of real growth. It moves you from a reactive state, angry, bitter, critical, into an active one, aware, thoughtful, in control. Key takeaway: judging others is the fastest way to lose your clarity. When you let go of the need to label everything, you free your mind. You stop getting pulled into drama. You stop letting others' behavior dictate your peace. You hold your stillness, and that's what sets you apart. The next time you feel a judgment forming, pause for just a few seconds. Ask yourself, do I really know their story? And if you've ever misjudged someone before, share that story. Your awareness might just be the mirror someone else needs. Mastering your emotions makes you steady. Accepting reality makes you light. Letting go of judgment frees you to focus on what truly matters in your life. 4. No one can control your emotions unless you let them. The world is full of rude, thoughtless, short-tempered people, or simply people who are nothing like you. Not everyone will behave in ways you find reasonable. Not everyone will understand your boundaries, your values, or your personal code. That's a fact of life, and one you cannot change. But you can always choose this: who gets access to your mind, and who doesn't. Stoicism offers a simple yet powerful metaphor. Think of your mind as a house. You wouldn't let a stranger barge in, yell, break your furniture, and burn the place down, only to say, sorry, I'm just having a rough day. No, you'd lock the door. You decide who enters, who stays, and who gets turned away. So why don't we do the same with our emotions, which are even more private and sacred than our living space? Most of the time, we lose our calm not because of the situation, but because we allow others to define how we feel. They insult, we feel hurt. They disrespect, we explode. They ignore our effort, we feel lost. Every time this happens, we hand over the steering wheel of our inner world. And when that becomes a habit, we're no longer driving our own lives. We're tossed around by praise, criticism, attention, or rejection, like a boat without a rudder, drifting with the wind. But a man who knows his worth, a man grounded in solid principles, won't let that happen. He knows others may act poorly, speak harshly, even try to wound him, but his emotions are off limits. And no one gets to touch them unless he allows it. Seneca once said, "Someone can insult you, but only you can choose to feel insulted." The real harm isn't in the words, it's in how you receive them. When you stay grounded, the attacker loses their power. They become invisible. And that's not just a win, it's mastery. One of the biggest misconceptions today is that emotional control is fake or suppressive. It's not. Emotional control is a conscious choice. It's real freedom. You're not ignoring your feelings, you're directing them. You're not hiding your pain, you're choosing how to handle it. That's not coldness. That's emotional intelligence. It's a life skill. A form of strength every real man needs to cultivate. And as you practice it, you realize something essential: you don't have to respond to everything. You don't always have to explain, defend, correct, or react. Sometimes, your silence is the strongest shield for your peace. Key takeaway: others may act poorly, but you don't have to join them. Every time you stay centered, you remind yourself, I alone hold the keys to my inner world. So next time someone tries to provoke you, pause and ask, do they deserve a place in my mind? If the answer is no, close the door. With silence, with a smile, or simply by living your life on your own terms. You can't control how others behave. But you can decide who has the power to stir your emotions and who doesn't. And when you do that, you step into a different league entirely, one where you're no longer rattled by the small stuff. 5. The root of anger is expectation, not external events. A calm man isn't calm because the world treats him kindly. He's calm because he understands a powerful truth. Anger doesn't come from what happens. It comes from what you expect it to happen. You get angry when someone acts out of line. But out of line according to whom? According to your standards. You get disappointed when people don't respond the way you thought they should. But is that truly within your control? No. You created the expectation and then let that expectation dictate your emotions. This is what many people overlook. It's not the world, it's you, who writes the internal script about how others should behave. And when reality doesn't match that script, you snap. You expect your boss to acknowledge your effort. You expect your wife to know what you need when you're tired. You expect your friends to act the way you once did for them. You expect society to be fair, just, reasonable. There's nothing wrong with wanting good things. But it's vital to distinguish between reasonable expectations and unrealistic ones. Stoicism doesn't tell you to suppress your emotions. It teaches you to see the difference between emotions rooted in truth and those born from illusion. And unchecked expectations, especially the ones you haven't examined, are often the seed of emotional illusion. Epictetus once said, "If you want the sea to always be calm, you might as well ask the wind to blow only in your favor." A strong man understands this. He still hopes for the best, but he doesn't become dependent on it. He does the right thing, but doesn't demand a certain outcome. He holds himself to high standards, but doesn't impose them on others, then erupt when they fall short. Take a look at the last time you lost control. Chances are, the real trigger wasn't someone else, it was an unspoken, untested expectation. You expected her to text back right away. You expected strangers to yield on the road. You expected people to think like you do. But all of these expectations, if not filtered through reason, are simply setups for disappointment. So what's the solution? Let go of unreasonable expectations. Place your expectations on yourself, not on what you can't control. Live with intention, not reaction. When you release faulty expectations, you don't lose anything. Instead, you reclaim your freedom. Freedom from frustration. Freedom from resentment. Freedom from feeling hurt simply because someone else didn't live according to the script in your head. And on the journey to becoming a grounded man, that's a vital step, freeing yourself from the need for others to behave the way you want. Key takeaway. You're not angry because someone did something wrong. You're angry because you believed they should have done it differently. When you pause, reflect, and adjust your expectations, you interrupt the entire chain of emotional reaction. The next time you feel that anger rising, stop and ask, what was I expecting? Is that expectation realistic? If it's not, let it go. The negative emotion will follow it out the door. People are not obligated to live according to the script in your mind. And when you truly realize that, you don't just escape your anger, you gain a kind of lightness, clarity, and inner strength that very few ever reach in this life. 6. Stop expecting others to live by your standards. Most of the time, we don't get angry because someone was wrong. We get angry because they didn't match what we expected. You're polite, so you expect others to be polite. You're honest, so you expect others not to lie. You keep your word, so you expect others to honor their commitments. It sounds reasonable. But this is the trap. You're measuring others with your own ruler. You're applying your values onto someone who grew up with different beliefs, experiences, perceptions, and emotional wiring. And when they don't meet those standards, you feel disappointed, frustrated, even hurt. Then you assume the fault is theirs. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. No one is required to live by your standards. They are them. You are you. They act based on their nature, their background, their mindset, not according to the script in your head. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When someone acts poorly, remember, that's their nature. But you can still act according to yours." What does that mean? It means you can't control others, but you can always control your response. You can choose not to let someone else's behavior pull you away from your own code. You are honest, because that's your standard. You are respectful, because that's the life you choose to live. You are calm, not because the world is kind, but because you've decided to live with strength and self-control. True freedom begins the moment you stop trying to control others and start focusing on mastering yourself. Look back at the times you felt let down. Chances are, no one promised to live by your values. They were just being themselves. And you hoped they'd be like you. When that hope wasn't met, it turned into resentment, frustration, and emotional strain. Unspoken expectations are invitations for disappointment. A wise person no longer waits for others to do right. They set clear boundaries. They observe without overreacting. They communicate rather than assume. And most importantly, they don't trade their inner peace just to correct someone else. You can influence others, but you can't control them. And that's okay. What you can do is live as someone worth learning from. Be the standard, don't enforce the standard. Key takeaway. Everyone behaves according to their nature. You can't change that. But you can choose to act from the best version of your own nature. That's what's within your control. So the next time someone upsets you by not meeting your expectations, pause and ask, am I upset because of what they did? Or because I expected them to live by my rules? If it's the latter, let it go. You'll feel much lighter. When you release the need to control others' behavior, you free yourself from endless disappointment. But there's one more thing you'll need to release for true peace, the need to always be right. And that's what comes next. 7. Let go of the need to always be right. Have you ever argued just to claim those two words, I'm right? And have you ever won the argument only to feel empty, drained, or disconnected from the very person you defeated? If you're a grown man who's been through tense relationships, worked in high-pressure environments, or had to defend your point of view among strong personalities, then you know this feeling well, the urge to prove yourself by winning an argument. But Stoicism asks a deeper, more confronting question. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace? From a young age, men are taught to compete, to prove, to win, to be better, to get the last word. And over time, that conditioning forms a dangerous habit, tying your identity to being right. Because if you're wrong, you feel weak, lesser, off balance, out of control. But that isn't truth, that's ego speaking. That's your inner narrative trying to protect a power zone, even if the price is your relationships, your clarity, or your peace. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius doesn't tell us to argue. He teaches us to observe with objectivity, to not be swept away by emotion, to not let a sense of insult cloud your judgment. A truly strong man is not shaken by words. He doesn't need to win every conversation because he knows his worth doesn't come from being more right than others. It comes from living in alignment with himself. If the person across from you is wrong but unwilling to listen, you don't need to correct them. If someone distorts the truth, you don't have to strike back. If they try to provoke you, you don't have to respond. Silence, in many cases, is the wisest response. Because not every battle is worth stepping into. When you let go of the need to always be right, you don't become weaker, you become free. Free from the urge to prove something. Free from hostility, tension, or the need to dominate. Free to choose something higher, connection, understanding, or simply moving on without needing to win. Here's the truth, the most grounded people rarely argue. They don't win with words, they win with presence, depth, and a calm that doesn't budge. Key takeaway. Each time you feel the urge to be right, ask yourself, does this really matter? If I'm right but lose my peace, is it worth it? If I win the debate but lose the connection, was it really a win? In the week ahead, when you find yourself in a disagreement, pause. Step back. Observe. And if being right isn't truly necessary, choose silence. You'll find yourself in far more control than you think. A wise man doesn't need to be right in every discussion, but he must stay right with himself. And that can't happen if he drags his ego into every room. It's time to set it down, starting with the truth that not everything revolves around you. 8. Everything isn't about you. Let go of the ego. A mature man understands this. The world does not revolve around him. And accepting that is the first step toward true freedom. Yet many men, even successful ones, have fallen into a subtle emotional trap, the belief that everything is somehow directed at them. Someone says something unkind, you assume they're criticizing you. Your partner grows distant, you think you're being punished. A coworker doesn't say hello, you take it as a sign of disrespect. Even a passing glance can be interpreted as mockery, contempt, or a personal attack. What's happening here? The ego has been activated. The ego wants you to believe you're the center of it all. That every word is about you. Every action is a reaction to you. And when you live in that mindset, you become a prisoner to every tiny expression from others. A single look can ruin your day. One comment can ruin your week. Stoicism slices through that illusion with a cold but liberating truth. Not everything is about you. And no one thinks about you as much as you think they do. That's not an insult. It's reality. Everyone is busy wrestling with their own life, their own pain, their own priorities and problems. What they say or do is often not about you at all, but still, your ego convinces you otherwise. And that, self-centered interpretation, is the most silent thief of peace. A grounded man doesn't live this way. He learns to let go of the ego. He doesn't convince himself that every oversight is a personal attack. He doesn't waste emotional energy on things he can't verify. Letting go of the ego doesn't make you weaker. It frees you from the constant need to defend yourself. The truth is, no one is attacking you 24/7. Much of what feels personal is just imagined by the mind. A Stoic understands. You don't have to react to everything. Not every word needs a reply. Not every expression needs decoding. Not every moment is a test of your worth. The ego is what turns small moments into big deals. It inflates everyday friction into battles. But you don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes, letting go is the victory. Key takeaway. The world doesn't revolve around you. And once you truly absorb that, you become less reactive. You stop living through a fragile ego that constantly craves recognition, respect, or the right treatment. You become steady because you've put the ego down. The next time you feel someone is disrespecting you or bothering you, pause and ask, am I really reacting to their action? Or is my ego reacting on my behalf? Recognizing that difference is the first step out of the trap that says the world is always watching you. Letting go of ego makes you less easily shaken by everything around you. But to truly build resilience, you must go one step further. Every time you feel irritation, that's a training ground. And if you know how to use it, you can turn each moment of tension into an emotional gem. The next section will show you how. 9. Every moment of frustration is emotional weight training. A calm man isn't born with that temperament, he builds it. Not in silence atop a mountain, but in the rough edges of daily life. The insult, the rejection, the unfair situation. Even the small things, a careless comment, a disrespectful gesture, or getting stuck in traffic on a rainy morning. You don't need to escape what irritates you. You need to use it. Stoicism sees life as a training ground. And every moment that stirs your frustration is another emotional dumbbell. Every time you stay calm instead of reacting impulsively, you lift something heavier in your spirit. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't just a philosophical slogan. It's a practical tool, a new way of seeing every negative moment. Someone disrespects you? That's a patience workout. You're misunderstood? That's a test in clarity and calm. You get publicly criticized? That's a chance to strengthen your self-control and inner confidence. Someone throws a verbal jab? That's a moment to break the reflex, and choose a mindful response. The slower you react, the more deliberate you become. And the more composed you remain while others lose control, the more you build the one thing others admire but rarely possess, inner strength. Real men don't grow by words or theory. They grow by stepping into friction and choosing integrity and composure even when things aren't in their favor. So next time you feel triggered, ask a different question. Don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What's the lesson here?" Frustration is a signal. It tells you something inside hasn't yet been mastered. And that's your invitation to train a muscle no gym can build, emotional resilience. Negative emotions aren't your enemy. Impulse reactions are. And Stoicism gives you the tools to shift from being reactive to being strategic. From letting emotions rule you to choosing your response like a tactician. Key takeaway. Every moment of frustration isn't an obstacle, it's a test. A weight you can either avoid or lift and grow stronger from. Write this down. The last time I lost my temper was when. Then ask yourself, if that same situation happened today, would I respond as a grounded man or as someone still ruled by the outside world? If you're ready to train, start with that moment. You can turn every irritation into growth if you create space between the trigger and the reaction. And sometimes, the most powerful way to create that space is to laugh. The next section will show you how to see life with humor and objectivity instead of letting emotions pull you under. 10. Don't react. Observe with humor and objectivity. Most men are trained by society to react fast. Make quick decisions. Respond instantly. Strike back when challenged. Assert power at a moment's notice. But in the real world, where emotions are easily triggered, words are often misunderstood, and conflict can erupt from nothing more than a glance, this kind of speed doesn't lead to wisdom. It leads to chaos, regret, and loss of control. Stoicism offers a simple but profoundly practical rule. Don't react. Observe first. When you're insulted, provoked, or misjudged, your instinct is to react immediately. But a grounded man doesn't take that bait. He knows that reacting is natural, but observing, creating space, and responding with intention is an art. And if you want to take your emotional mastery even further, add this one ingredient. Humor. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in his private journal. When someone acts irrationally, remember, the irrationality is theirs, not yours. You can choose anger. Or you can choose to smile. Not with sarcasm, but with the knowing smile of someone who realizes the world is full of odd little performances, and not everything needs to be taken so seriously. That person who lacks tact? How amusing, they think it makes them strong. The one who manipulates and dances around the truth? Interesting, they haven't learned the value of honesty. The one who exaggerates or lies? Much like a child afraid of being punished, they're just protecting themselves. The more you observe, the more you'll realize. Most negative behavior is born from fear, ignorance, or unhealed wounds. And when you begin to see the world through that softer lens, you stop inserting yourself into every scenario as if it's your job to fix it. You don't need to be the world's judge. You don't have to win every argument. You don't always need to prove yourself. You can simply observe, smile, and carry on. This is a mental state of great power, not detachment, but deliberate calm. You keep your mind clean. You don't let it get dragged down by what doesn't deserve space in it. Instead of getting angry, create distance. Instead of overanalyzing, just observe. Instead of reacting, ask a question. Or simply take a breath and keep moving. Negative emotions are like stones. You can carry them or you can set them down. And a man who knows where he's going doesn't weigh himself down with what doesn't serve the journey. Key takeaway. Observation is your weapon. Humor is your armor. When you combine both, you step out of the world of reflex and into the territory of inner freedom. Next time someone acts out, loses control, or behaves ridiculously, don't react. See it as a scene in a play, a real-life clip. Ask yourself, do I need to jump into this role, or can I just watch the show and move on? If you can do that, you've already won, without lifting a finger. You don't need to react to show your strength. Sometimes, all it takes is quiet empathy, and that alone makes you the strongest man in the room. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. 11. Choose empathy over anger. Anger is one of the easiest reactions to have, and one of the easiest ways for a man to lose himself. You get angry when someone disrespects you. You get angry when someone breaks a promise. You get angry when you're misunderstood, attacked, or feel betrayed. And if you stay at the surface of that emotion, the world will always seem unfair. You'll always be bracing for the next confrontation. You'll carry around a fuse, ready to be lit by anyone, at any time. But Stoicism offers you a different path. A way out. A beginning to an entirely different kind of strength, empathy. Empathy isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's not about letting others hurt you and staying silent. Empathy is when you're strong enough not to let your ego dictate your actions. It's when you pause before reacting and ask, what might this person be going through to behave this way? The one who speaks cruelly may be drowning in self-doubt. The person yelling at work might be desperately holding onto their position. The coldness in a relationship may hide a battle you've never had to fight. Stoicism teaches, don't just see the behavior, look for the pain behind it. And if you can see that pain, you don't have to react, you simply need to understand. A mature man doesn't react from emotion. He observes. He analyzes. He steps into the other person's shoes and responds with reason. But when you add empathy to that reason, you don't just manage the moment. You elevate it. You become the one who raises the standard. The one who shifts the energy in the conversation. The one who brings calm, clarity, and safety, even in tense moments. And that's critically important in a world where men are taught to be strong, but not taught how to master their inner world. A man who leads with empathy is one who has outgrown the need to prove himself through volume, posture, or argument. He shows strength in how he listens, in how carefully he chooses his words, and in how he understands that kindness doesn't diminish respect, it deepens it. Key takeaway: you can't control others, but you can always control your response. And when that response is rooted in empathy, not defense, you not only avoid conflict, you build trust, connection, and mental freedom. So the next time you feel anger rising towards someone, ask yourself, what might they be struggling with that I can't see? That question may not change their behavior, but it will absolutely change yours. And that is what defines who you truly are. You can't control the world. You can't control what people say, how they behave, or the unexpected turns life throws at you. But you can always control one thing, how you respond. And that is the highest form of power a man can possess. Be the mountain, unshaken in the storm. Be the deep water, undisturbed by a single stone. Be the one who holds steady, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. Anger won't make you stronger. It only makes you easier to manipulate. Calmness is the real superpower. And you can train it, day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. If you're ready to take ownership of your emotions, leave just one word: Stoic. If this message speaks to something you've been needing, follow the channel. Because every day, you'll be reminded of the one truth that matters most. Strength doesn't come from defeating others. It comes from not letting others defeat you, inside your own mind.